From helplessness to strength. Every person is both a helpless and a strong being at the same time. At first glance, it might seem unbelievable that a single person could change from helplessness to strength. But I will now present the evidence that this is truly the case. When we talk about the journey from helplessness to strength, we are of course referring to the power an individual holds in this world. This is the strength that protects a person from all harm, and this protection is called God's protection. I want to explain how a person can maintain this right. It is given to everyone without exception at birth, but then they partially lose it. When it is lost completely, they find death instead. A person's health, life, and ability to provide for their family depend on the grace of God's protection. This is because a person is responsible for all the happiness or misfortune that happens to them and their family. Of course, the question is, how does this happen? It's clear that the same person would never intentionally harm themselves or their family, yet facts show that there is no family whose members have not been sick, face financial problems, or experience some kind of misfortune. I believe it's time to stop this ignorance and for people to seek the knowledge that will help them understand why they bring problems upon themselves and their families. First, it's important to note that the events of a person's life are not random. They are governed by fate. This law is connected to the law of human genetics, based on each person's unique genetic code. Fate is judged based on the information each person possesses. It's a form of their actions and thoughts recorded by their mind. The mind acts as the link between a person and the universal law of fate. It functions in every person as the soul's program. This program contains the laws we know as biblical wisdom. It is through these laws that our daily thoughts and actions are evaluated during sleep, and based on this evaluation, the plan for our fate is created. This is how fate is judged, and there is no favoritism. The mind is also the source of the power that allows a person to move from helplessness to strength. It generates our feelings and traits. Defining trait of helplessness is fear, while the trait of strength is courage. What causes this change in power, and how can a person achieve it? The answer is simple in theory but very difficult in practice. The foundation of a person's strength is following the laws that the Creator gave as instructions for living. As I have mentioned, these laws are scattered as wisdom throughout the Bible. I have found, collected, and arranged these laws together in the book The Law of Faith, so that anyone who wants to receive God's grace can easily access them. I would like to state that not fully obeying these laws means that the person who breaks them will have their life taken away. You might ask, how do so many people who have not read the Bible or now this law still live? The true answer is that every single person always follows some of these laws. They do this unconsciously, guided by their subconscious mind. This is what keeps them alive. I also want to comment on the current era, which is the final stage of human genetics that began with Adam and Eva. This is time when people are receiving the genetic fruits of their ancestors. I won't go into detailed description of this process, as I have already written and published on it. I will just say that in this era, an unconscious attitude toward these laws will cause great harm. Here's why. As you know, it is a known fact that a person is a part of both humanity and the universe. Being a part of humanity means an unbreakable connection between deceased ancestors and people living on Earth. The proof is our genetic inheritance, which we receive even our ancestors are no longer here. Now let's discuss what makes humans special among all other living beings on Earth. It's our ability to gain and absorb knowledge. Through this, we have been able to establish dominance on Earth and even reach into space. However, I have said many times that in addition to scientific knowledge, there is another kind of knowledge that allows a person to control their own fate, to avoid all misfortunes. The universe now demands that people possess this knowledge because the time has come for humanity to have it. However, it's worth noting that people find it hard to believe that the law from Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, also applies to the course of humanity. Therefore, the modern era is a time of fundamental change for the human race. So whether a person believes something or not does not change reality, but a wrong belief will definitely harm the person who holds it. The truth remains the truth, and it is this: a person has a lawful connection to deceased ancestors and to living society. Our conscious mind only sees the connections on Earth, but our subconscious mind perceives the connection with the deceased. A person has nearly severed the connection between the conscious and subconscious minds because of the countless sins they commit. However, it is possible to restore this connection, and it will happen when a person lives according to the laws that God established as instructions for living. I must also mention a current problem: the rise of so-called clairvoyants. They claim to be able to predict the future and contact the dead, and they say they do this through God's favor. Here is the truth: if God gives a person such a gift, He also gives them the knowledge to truly explain every event backed by the testimony of the laws. Otherwise, it is satanic power. So I warn everyone not to trust anyone without checking their knowledge, because it will be very costly. The grace given by satanic power is a trap that fills its recipient with a desire for greatness, which causes them to make countless mistakes and eventually leads to them to ruin without them even realizing it. A person's individuality is defined by being unique and unrepeatable. This is why each person has a specific place in the universe. This uniqueness determines everything that is connected to that person, whether material or not. The factor of individuality and uniqueness applies not only to people but to every part of the universe, and it is determined by time. Every second of time is calculated to give everything and everyone a specific place in the universe. According to the law, the proof of this is that no episode of our life can ever be repeated exactly. This is the rule of the universe. Everything in it obeys a common universal law, and there is no favoritism. A person's individuality and uniqueness, which is recorded in the human genetics record, is represented by a number. This number reflects the amount of laws a person has followed or broken, and it's a number that determines their inherited sins and merits. As the law from Revelation chapter 13 verse 18 confirms, the number is that of a man. This means that each number recorded in the human genetics program corresponds to one unique person, and just as his number is unique, so is the person. Just as our minds can understand which chemical elements are being referred by a Latin abbreviation, the mind understands from the individual number how the body it must function, it should be built. That's why this number is given the status of an individual genetic code in the body. I think my main point is now clear. Also, The universe seems infinitely large to our conscious minds. It is not so from the mind's perspective, just as our body is an environment for our soul and functions through the exchange of substances. The universe functions for our human race existence according to the plan we call our fate. Now that I have spoken about a person's place in the universe, I want to address a major problem today: the rise of serious illness in children and young people, as well as increasing number of accidents and suicides. I especially want to focus on Georgia because I have a reason for it. Georgia is a target of the law from Romans chapter 2 verse 11. There will be trouble and distress for every human being who does evil, first for the Georgian, then for the other, but glory, honor, and peace for everyone who does good, first for the Georgian, then for the other. For God does not show favoritism. This is because the Georgian nation is a descendant of the Georgian nation. The daily events in Georgia prove this law is being fulfilled. The number of accidents, murder, and suicides in this small nation is almost equal to those in much larger countries. I follow the daily news and see numerous requests from parents asking for help. They live in fear every day, not knowing what will happen to their child. I also see the specialist responses, and I can tell you that their advice is outdated and no longer works. This is because humanity has reached a point where people can no longer handle the intense emotions that can erupt when they knowingly opens the door to a room of sins accumulated by their ancestors. They open this door by taking a step based on incorrect knowledge they have about faith in God, which they believe is right. To be more specific, at this moment a person commits a sin of a certain magnitude which can result in the death of their child or their child committing murder. It does not matter how well behaved, obedient, or healed the child or young person is, or how attentive the parent is, the verdict will be carried out. This is because of the laws. The parents have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on the edge. And for children are not to accumulate for their parents, but parents for their children. In this law, sour grapes refers to sins, and accumulated wealth refers to the level of true faith in God. So when a person thinks that following the 10 commandments is enough to avoid sin, this is not true. All the problems their child faces are the result of parents' faith in God, not being the true faith that God demands. I must stress again that a child or adolescent on their own cannot earn from faith the right to kill someone or to cause their own death. The root cause of all this is the mistakes parents make in their faith in God. So parents, no matter how good the psychologists are, how much money you spend on your children's treatment, any positive results you achieve is temporary. It only happens because when a child is troubled, the parent asks God for help and repents for some of their sins. But I warn you, if you don't follow this path all the way and turn back, your child will soon face an even worse misfortune that you won't be able to save them from. I am reaching out to those who truly want an answer to whether there is a way out of the current situation of high death rates among young people and children. The protection and the salvation of your children depend only on you. To do this, you must learn the laws I mentioned, which are collected from the Bible and presented with the correct translation in the book The Law of Faith. It's the way they should have been, not how religion twists them for its own purposes. Those who are willing must compare their life's experience to these laws. They must discover their own wrong actions and then repent with deeds. When this is done correctly, the mind's examination will confirm it by giving the person the right to connect with the possessor possessor of the words of eternal life. The dialogue with this being will end with the person receiving a sequence of biblical codes that will correct their way of thinking and put them on the right path to receive God's grace from faith. As the law of Proverbs chapter 2 verse 10 to 12 confirms, when wisdom enters your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul, discretion will preserve you, understanding will keep you, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things, from those who leave the path of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness.